Hello everyone, back to today's first video. Going to have a look at the ECMWF ensemble model for the next 30 days. Takes us pretty much through the whole of July, so we're going to go towards month's end with this update. It's coming to you via the Hungarian Met Office. So we've been doing this as a regular feature at Heatwave on a Tuesday for past few weeks. The model updates on a Monday night and on a Thursday night. So we pick out the Tuesday update to bring you every week. We could also add in the Friday update as well, but we'd probably be repeating ourselves a little bit and we'd be clashing with JMA Friday. So that's the reason we don't do the Friday update, but we do the Tuesday update. So I'll take you through the temperature and precipitation anomalies that we're expecting over the next month with the ECMWF extended ensemble model. We can't show you pressure or mean sea level pressure or 500 millibar heights, but from the distribution of the temperature and rainfall anomalies, you get the rough idea, I think, of the pattern that we're expecting in these 4 weekly periods. So I'll get all that for you in a moment. Just say the link to the Hungarian Met Office is on the links page. Coming up later on today, we're going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days in detail. It looks like after a few fresher days from today through to the end of the week, over the weekend into next week, the heatwave will probably be intensifying. So I'll have more on that in today's second video update. But starting us off is going to be the ECMWF 30-day update. So we begin with the temperature anomaly for week 1. It's actually week 27 of the year, but it's week 1 for the time frame that we're looking at. So this first week takes us from the 2nd through to the 8th of July. So you can see where the warmth and the cool weather is across Europe in the week ahead. So across the UK and across Ireland, we're coming out significantly hotter than average in the week ahead, with temperature anomalies. The scale is down the bottom here. Temperature anomalies are between around 3 and 6 degrees above average for the UK and for Ireland in the week ahead. Southern parts of Scandinavia, so Norway and Sweden, also coming out substantially hotter than average. Most western parts of Europe also coming out hotter than average, including northern France and into the Low Countries, Belgium and Holland. So sort of either between 1 to 3 degrees above average or 3 to 6 degrees above average. But the UK and Ireland will be one of the hottest places across Europe in the week ahead. As has been the case all summer, it remains rather cool down across Spain and Portugal. Temperature anomalies there are coming out a little bit cooler than average. And then we come through the central basin of the Mediterranean, central bowl of the Mediterranean, if you like, and we find that the holiday islands through the Med are a little bit warmer now than they have been earlier in the summer, but still not as warm to average as we see across northern parts of Europe, but a little bit warmer than average. So fairly hot conditions now if you're heading off to the holiday islands of Ibiza, Mallorca, Minorca, Malta, although Corsica and Sardinia do still look a little bit on the cool side there. And then we head towards Italy and we find that the temperature anomaly across Italy is looking rather cool, really. That's been the case through much of the summer. And then over the Adriatic and into the southeast of Europe, so through the Balkans, down to Romania and then on to Greece and Turkey. It's generally quite a cool scene there, really. I don't think Greece and Turkey as cool as it has been, but nevertheless, still fairly cool conditions in the southeast of Europe. And then going up into the east and northeastern part of Europe, from sort of Germany eastwards, the temperatures do look rather cool, to say the least, through Poland, and then by the time we get through to Ukraine, we go significantly cooler than average. The most cooler than average temperature anomalies then extend up into the northeast of Europe, so countries like Latvia, Estonia, significantly cooler than average there. And then we get into Western Russia and also looking cooler than average. So essentially we can say that the pattern is for the east and for the south of Europe to be rather cool, and the north and west and central part of Europe to be rather warm. And the peak of the heat is across, or the most intense heat to average, I suppose I should say, 'cause it will still be warmer down in the Med, of course, but the most intense anomalies to average in terms of warm weather is across the UK, Ireland, Norway, Sweden, and parts of France as well. Precipitation in the week ahead, we see a real north-south split, so it remains significantly drier than average across much of northern Europe, UK, Ireland, sort of Germany, northern parts of France, Belgium, Holland, Denmark, up to Scandinavia. Those areas are all coming out substantially drier than average, as we see the high pressure continuing to be blocking things out up there. So we've got the high pressure blocking things out across the north and the northwest of Europe. The jet stream, therefore, it's a split jet. It's come across the Atlantic, and the energy is going up there. And also some of the energy is going down here as well. So for southern parts of France, we see above average rainfall. That's primarily down to thunderstorms. That much of France coming out with a reasonably wettish week, actually. Always down to thunderstorms. Portugal also coming out a little bit wetter than average, as is northwestern parts of Spain, but inland and eastern parts of Spain a little bit drier than average there. Generally quite dry through the Mediterranean to Italy, and then we go over to the Balkans, so it's quite wet in the Balkans, down in the southeastern part of Europe. We come further northwards, and we find this northeastern corner. Not only is it quite cool up there, it's also fairly wet as well, but you can clearly see where that massive Omega High blocking feature is sitting across the north and the northwest of Europe in the week ahead. Right, let's go through to week 2, and this one takes us from the 9th through to the 15th of July. Again, substantially hotter than average week coming up, so a heat wave goes on. That's the main message from the ECMWF ensemble forecast. The first 2 weeks of July will come out really hot by the look of it. Very much hotter than average for the UK and Ireland. Most of France, and this time extending through to Germany as well, coming out substantially hotter than average still. Southern parts of Scandinavia, so Norway and Sweden, or southern Norway, southern Sweden, down to Denmark, also coming out significantly hotter than average. Again, anomalies to average are either between 1 and 3 or 3 and 6 degrees above average. It looks warmer through the Mediterranean as well, so parts of Spain starting to turn hotter, parts of the Med also turning hotter, so very gradually it looks like the temperatures are lifting up through the Mediterranean in the early part of July after a fairly cool start to the summer, to say the least. Down towards Portugal, there we're closer to average, a little bit on the cool side, but the real cool conditions remain in the far north, so from the far north of Scandinavia into the northeast of Europe to western Russia, and then down into southeastern parts of Europe, including, unfortunately, you know, what's going on holiday, including Greece and Turkey, coming out significantly cooler than average in those regions over towards the Black Sea. And then the precipitation anomalies for the second week, which is, again, the 9th to 15th of July. Generally, it's a dry scene. So you see where the jet stream is. The jet stream is going up there, so that's why the far north of Norway and Sweden are cooler, because that's where we've got the jet stream running in from off the Atlantic. But many parts of Europe are actually coming out significantly drier than average, over more of a wider area actually compared to week 1. So from Ireland and the UK out in the west, over towards the west of Russia, most places are coming out drier than average from the 9th through to the 15th of July. And generally quite a dry scene in the Mediterranean as well. There are a few wetter areas. Portugal looks a little bit wetter. Corsica, Sardinia looks a little bit wetter. Southern Italy, or southern foot of Italy, if you like, looks a little bit wetter there. And possibly down towards Greece, a little bit wetter there. But overall, through the Mediterranean, it does look a bit drier there through the second week of July. Very warm and dry, though, in the north of Europe, continuing this incredibly warm and dry summer that we've had so far. Week 3 looks like that. It takes us from the 16th through to the 22nd of July. Still, generally, most parts of Europe are coming out above average. Now, we don't see quite as intense an anomaly this week compared to weeks 1 and 2. The highest temperatures to average are more across central parts of Europe. So through eastern France, through Belgium and Holland, possibly going over towards central parts of Germany, and then maybe extending through in towards sort of Poland. So a little bit more centred across the central and maybe towards the eastern part of Europe as we get through towards the third week of July. That said, most parts of Europe are actually coming out much more than average. UK and Ireland is included in that. Our anomaly is around 1 to 3 degrees above average. So it's a little bit of a cool down compared to weeks 1 and 2, where we're 3 to 6 degrees above average across the UK and Ireland. But even so, still significantly warmer than average. And that would, of course, confirm what will be a very hot July indeed. Up to the north of Europe, so we find at the far north of Scandinavia, it's closer to average there. The southeast of Europe, average a little bit cooler than average. Still it's rather cool around Portugal, but otherwise it's a warm scene there for the third week of July across much of Europe. Precipitation anomalies looking like that. So still hinting at being rather dry really across many central northern parts of Europe. The intensity of the anomaly is weakening. That's probably just because the further out we're going, the weaker the signal is becoming. But it looks as though the broad pattern remains the same, really, which is for much of Central and Northern Europe to be dominated by high pressure. Jet stream's probably up there still, just to the north of Scotland and going into northern parts of Norway and Sweden. And then in the southern part of Europe through the Mediterranean, getting close to average with the precipitation anomaly. So perhaps hints at being a little bit more showery through the Med. That's been the case through much of this summer. And then finally we go through to week 4. This one takes us from the 23rd through to the 29th of July. And no real changes. The very warm summer continues. So most parts of Europe, particularly central and western parts of Europe, including again the UK and Ireland, coming out substantially warmer than average with anomalies of between 1 and 3 degrees above average. So the second half of July does cool down a little bit compared to the first half of July, where the anomaly goes from being sort of 3 to 6 degrees above average in the first half of July to 1 to 3 degrees above average in the second half. So it will be a very warm month. It's going to be a hot July if this is right. But the first half possibly sees the peak of the heat, and then the temperature, whilst not going to average, or certainly not going to cooler than average, does cool down a little bit in the second half of July, see what I mean, but still very much an above average signal. Again, precipitation, I should say, temperature anomalies for Northern Europe coming out close to average. The jet stream is probably running through a little bit like this, so maybe just bring the jet stream ever so slightly further southwards here, but still essentially the jet stream is across the very far north of Europe. Also looking fairly warm through the central basin of the Mediterranean. Still rather cool, I suppose, with the temperature anomalies in the southeast of Europe. So from Greece, Turkey up to Black Sea, looks fairly coolish there, particularly for Greece. And across Spain and Portugal, no better than around average with temperature anomalies for them. Precipitation-wise, finally in week 4, 23rd, 29th of July, again, it's going more towards average precipitation. That's probably just as we're losing. The signal is weakening the further out we're going. But I think you can still broadly see, although it's a weaker signal, you can broadly see that these central parts of Europe are still more or less like to be dominated by high pressure. But high pressure may be weakening at this point, but I'm a bit dubious really about that. I think the main reason those anomalies are reverting to average is just that the model is losing its signal if you like, and try to revert things to average. But reading between the lines, I think we still have the prospect of quite a bit of high pressure through this central and northern part of Europe. As I say, the jet stream is probably going through up there, so it's a little bit further southwards towards Scotland, but still generally on the northern side, on the warm side, I suppose I should say, and to the north of the UK and Ireland. Across southern parts of Europe, the precipitation anomaly through the Mediterranean is average to, perhaps for Italy anyway, hinting at being a little bit wetter than average. But the signals are definitely weakening, I think, as we go through to that final week. So the first half of July, the heat is on, and it looks like to be in for a very substantially hotter and drier than average couple of weeks across not just the UK and Ireland, but much of Northern Europe, coming out really hot and dry in the next couple of weeks, the first 2 weeks of July, the first half of July. The second half of July still looks pretty warm, even there, I have to say, but it's not quite as hot as it is in the first 2 weeks. And I think still a signal for much of the month to be pretty dry across central and northern parts of Europe. Always a little bit more unsettled to the south, and particularly the southeast of Europe, where we could be in for really quite an unsettled month again, across parts of Greece in particular, and up to the Balkans. Right, so that is your 30-day look ahead with the ECMWF. Later on this afternoon, we'll have a detailed look at weather for the next 10 days. Expect to see these anomaly charts replicated in that video. I think the heat will intensify over the weekend and next week. More later on. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.